guys, and today we're inside my boat. It's a 1991 Larson. Here it is. And today we are working on a bit of an issue that we caused ourselves with the drain with our freeze plugs. So we have to install some of these freeze plugs because we had two of them that popped out in the tightest place. We had two pop out right next to the engine mount, and we talked to a few marine dealers, and to service this they recommend to pull the engine out. So here's the way I did it. It's a little bit easier this way. So all I had to do was actually just take my motor mounts off, and I'm doing one side at a time. To repair this right here, the freeze plugs, they recommend to take the whole motor out, which they charge about $100 an hour, and they quoted a $600 repair for this. So the reason why these popped out was I must have had a little bit of water left from the winter, and so it froze up and it caused pressure and blew these out. So be sure to winterize your boat correctly. I got a set of new exhaust manifold gaskets, and I got these from the local parts store, actually O'Reilly's, so it wasn't even a marine shop. You can get them at your local O'Reilly's, or Advance has them, because these boats are very common, and it uses the same block as a Chevy S10. So this is what we have. So I don't know if you can see, but our freeze plug, come on, focus. The freeze plug goes in right in here, and this is where the motor mount sits. So instead of having either one of these other ones right beside it, or even this front one, which is super easy to put back in, we had to actually remove the whole manifold on both sides, and I had to take this mount off because there's just no possible way to stick your finger in between here to pop the new one in. So this is the motor. It's a 4.3 Mercrusier. It's a very common motor. The way I got the motor setting right now, I had this block here. The metal bar here, I used it, and I had someone pry on this flywheel, and then I was able to stick this board here to run it across, and that was just enough. That gave us just enough wiggle room to get the motor mount off. And we're doing one side at a time for that reason there. I don't want nothing to happen to this board. Just get some kind of winch and build like some sort of beam like that across, and lift it up that way. Now I'm just going to clean some of my gasket off the exhaust manifold and clean up the freeze plug. We've got our freeze plugs in the freezer right now to help reduce the size of them, and once we get them in, they'll expand back up. So that's just a little trick that I read online, and I'm gonna actually try it. So we put the 3 freeze plugs that we're using inside the freezer. It's supposed to be easier to knock them in, and once they get back up to temperature, they're gonna expand. So let me go ahead and clean up this area here. I actually got a new starter on it last year. That was a pain in the butt to put on. I'll go ahead and sand that, and we'll go ahead and show you what we got. Okay, we have got our freeze plugs in. We've got them installed, and let me see if I can show you here. That's the best I could do on it. You can't really tell, and it's impossible to get in without removing that mount. So we've got 3 of the engine mount bolts already started, so we just have to tighten those back up on both sides, and we're ready to install our exhaust manifold, which we had to clean up because this gasket didn't really want to come off easily. It was kind of glued or stuck to it. It kind of burnt. So I used a 180 sander like this, and was able to clean them up without making any major marks on it. We've got our new gaskets here. Okay, so I ran into a bit of an issue trying to get the gasket to hold on here in the back, since there's not enough room to actually stick your whole body in there. This is the solution I came up with. So we're gonna run the gasket on the studs and we're gonna hold them with some tape on this side, and I'll let you know if this does the trick. If not, I'll have to come up with something else. So I'm gonna try to go ahead and get it on this exhaust, and that kind of holds it into place, and then see if I could just line them up and go ahead and start a few. The front is not an issue, you got plenty of room. It's trying to make sure that the rear part of the gasket doesn't sag down or anything like that. So I'll let you know how this goes. Okay, so here's a quick update. We've got this side completely tucked away. We've got all of our hoses on. We've got our map sensor on. The boot clamps all tight. So we'll just double check one more time. And our power steering is tight. So on this side we've got all of our bolts started. So I still have to tighten everything up. And then we still need to install this bracket, tighten up our boot hoses, install the starter relay, goes right here, finishing tightening everything up, and we'll be good to give it our first start. So stay tuned. How's it going, guys? Danny TV here. Long story short, we do have a cracked block on the 4.3 Mercruiser, and ignore the boxes back there. Those are my Jeep fenders. If you have not seen my Jeep build, I'll be sure to link the video in the description box. Check it out, see if you like it, let me know what your thoughts are. Anyways, so after getting the boat back together and installing the new freeze plugs and everything and running the boat for about 15 minutes, our oil turned into chocolate milk. So we do have a cracked block. Our oil and water are mixing internally, so inside the internal channel somehow there's a crack and it's letting water and my oil mix, so that's not a good thing. We went ahead and drained the fluid, or we actually had to pump it out. You have to pump it out on these boats through the dipstick. These 4.3 Mercruiser motors are known for cracked blocks. And so we have a few options. Even though I'm not going to get this boat done by this summer, this will be a winter project, and I do not want to take an L on this one. So far we have took an L after doing all that work and removing our engine mounts, which was not easy. The dealer actually charges around $600 to do something like that, because they actually recommend that you pull the whole motor out. But I have talked to a few marine technicians, and we do have a few options. I have pulled my spark plugs and everything was dry in there, so I know it's like kind of leads me down to thinking that it is the block, but I'm not 100% sure. There is a possibility that I did overheat my head gasket when I was running it without my freeze plugs the first time I started it, but we only ran it for like 10-15 minutes before I noticed water filling up inside the boat. So the first thing I have to do is actually pull the motor out. We'll go ahead and pull the motor out, and I was thinking about getting a short block for it or a long block, but you know, it is a 91 and it's not in the best shape, so I don't want to sink in a whole lot of money. I have talked to a few marine techs, and I am thinking about trying to run a 4.3 GM block in here, like an auto block, but I do want to finish off some of my other projects before I tear down into this motor and see if the crack is fixable, because I could weld it if there's enough space and room for the torch. Stay tuned on this one. We'll tear into the motor and see what we could do, but I really want to get this boat back going on a budget. Since it is a 91, I don't want to sink a whole lot of money into it. It's not in the best shape. If you do have a boat, be sure to properly winterize it. Take your time.